Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Coaches Roundtable brought to you by Britballin. Just before we get started on this and we start bringing everyone in, we have got another host to welcome to the Britballin family, so we're going to bring her in now. That's Tash.
Hello.
Tash.
Hi.
How's it going? You all right?
Good. I'm fine. Finally glad that we can actually announce this and that I'm here.
I'm over the moon. I'm so glad you're here, and it's not Mike.
You finally got somebody else on the stream with you.
Nah, I'm over the moon. Honestly, thanks for being part of the team. We're going to send you some swag. Don't worry. We'll get you the Britballin merch and we'll kit you all out. Don't worry.
That's it at the moment. I'm looking a bit plain.
Yeah, we'll sort that. We didn't have time. We just thought, right, we'll get her on quickly get her in.
Getting a new face.
But tonight, Tash, we're going to be talking about flag football. We've got some great flag coaches and representatives of lots of different teams and different organisations here. So should we start bringing them in?
Yeah, I think we should. Looking forward to it.
Who do you want to start with, Tash? Who should we bring in?
I think that we should bring in Vince first, as I know Vince as one of my old coaches.
All right, we'll bring Vince in. Vince, welcome to the stream.
Hey, guys. Hey, Tash. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too.
So, Vince, can we just get a little bit of background on who you are and what team you coach, etc., please?
Yeah, so I'm Vince Mackey. I've been involved both on the men's and women's side for Great Britain, for in BAFCA. So on the club side, on the men's, I run the Baker Street Button Hookers. Won a couple of national championships with them. On the women's side, coached the Hyde Park Renegades, who we've gone to a couple finals, but haven't quite broken through there. And then on the men's side, I was the offensive coordinator. On the GB side, I was the offensive coordinator for the women's team that took silver in Euros, and I was also the men's quarterback and the offensive captain for the men's team at Euros in Israel. So looking forward to hopefully Israel again in December for the World Cup.
Nice. I mean, you could have just said top dog there and we would have just been, yeah, no bother, happy days, we'll have that. Vince, I'm going to let you pick the next guest. Come on. We're rolling it out here.
You got to bring my guy, Dean Whittingslow, in.
Oh, Dean's been on the show before. We normally make him wait last, mate, so he's going to love this. Dean, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for making me fellow Vince. Thank you very much.
So, Dean, just for anyone that didn't catch the last show with you on, which if you didn't catch it, it's still on YouTube and Facebook on BAFCA and Britballin pages. Plug. So, just for anyone that didn't catch it, can you introduce yourself again, please?
Yeah, so I'm Dean Whittingslow. I'm the head coach for the women's flag football team. As Vince said, we took silver in 2019. I'm looking forward again to Israel again this year.
Nice one. Now, Dean, who are we picking?
Let's go with Coach Young.
Coach Young, good choice. Coach Young, welcome to the stream.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to follow two fine men like Vince and Dean.
They are pretty fine, man. I'm not going to lie, mate. They're looking very smart and nice. So, Coach Young, can you give us a little background on yourself, who you're coaching at? And
yeah, absolutely. So for the last 5 years, I've been the coach of the GB men's flag team. I've held quite a few roles in BAFCA. I was the National League coordinator for 3 years. I even took on the national programme director role for about 4 months just to keep the ship moving. I put Dean in place, which was it worked out all right. It did okay. I play with the Glasgow Hornets for fun. I've been the runner-up to Vince a few times in my life, which I think will continue to happen.
Haven't we all?
And I've been about for quite a bit. I played with the Cobras, played with the Hornets. I coached the women's Pirates team for a while. Yeah, I've been involved for a while.
Just a while, mate. Yeah, it seems like you've done like the same as what everyone else has, and that's pretty much everything in it, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's 21 years. It's been a long time since I started. So, yeah, definitely been involved.
21?
Nice one, mate.
I didn't even realize it was that long.
Yeah, 21 years ago, and I'm reading through a programme at a Claymores game, and there was a Carluke Predators team, and I was like, oh, that's my hometown. No one knows where that is.
I'm sorry to say this, but I was 7 years old when you started. Play.
Is it just you, Adam, that can kick Tash out of this ball? Or?
It is, mate. I'm sorry. But you can get back in now. She's got admin access. Sorry. I mean, I was just waiting for the bit where he's going to go, I've got flag belts older than you. Like, I was waiting for that.
No, I forget how old I am, to be honest. I've still got the mind of a 22-year-old, but
Love it.
the body of a 60-year-old.
Well, Coach Young, who are we going to bring in next?
Oh, my goodness. A woman who inspires me, Phoebe Schechter. Let's have Phoebe in.
Phoebe, nice to have you join us.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I'm excited to be able to talk flag with everyone.
Phoebe, where are you joining us from today?
I'm still in the States. I actually fly back tomorrow, whoop, whoop, which I'm really pumped for. But yeah, it is a traditionally British day out today. It's kind of gray. It's rainy. I'm just setting myself up for my flight home tomorrow.
Where in the States are you right now?
I'm in Connecticut, so just above New York.
Okay.
It's not as bad as Gated. We had all four weathers at training this morning. We literally started with snow and then it was blazing hot sunshine by the time we finished. So it was funny.
Oh, good.
So Phoebe, just a little bit background on yourself, if possible. I know you've been on the show before, but we've got to do it again. Sorry.
Sure, I'll stick with the flag side. No,
Phoebe, we want it. We want it all. We want everything. We got to bulk this show out. Come on, get it all done.
No. Well, I mean, I've had the opportunity to play for everyone pretty much that's on this call, which is so exciting to be able to be here with them and hear their perspective. So I've played for, I guess, GB flag now for a few years, hopefully making golds again this year. I also am the IFAF American football representative for the sport. In terms of coaching, I guess I work with British American Football Coach Association on the women's development side, and then have pretty much just been playing flag in every format of the sport since I started playing back in the UK 9 years ago now. So I've had the opportunity these past 4 months to be able to play, I'd say, almost 6 different versions of the sport, which has been pretty cool.
That's brilliant. Absolutely. You know what? I was expecting you to mention, the team in the States that sounds like Hills, but isn't Hills. You can mention that,
I mean, if you need me to, but I don't think there's any need for that. This is flag.
Listen, we've got Britballin logo on here. See it. Come on, see it.
So I coach the Buffalo Bills. I'm also a female flag ambassador for NFL flag. Come on. What else I got for you? I hit 2 there.
Clip it in the chat, people. It's on the Britballin. Come on. So, Phoebe, who are we bringing in next?
Let's bring in Coach Mathers.
Coach Mathers, let's get him in. Coach, welcome to the stream.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
So, Coach, can you give us a little bit of a background on yourself, just like everyone else has, if possible?
Yeah, sure. I've been involved with GB Flag since 2019. I came in as a defensive coordinator and now moved over to OC, which is where I'm have most of my experience. Played for the Mansfield Honey Badgers for a few years. And then before that was a contact guy. So I came up through the University of Nottingham for about 7 years. And then finished up with one last year at the South Phoenix. So, yeah, a bit of contact, bit of flag for about 15 years now.
Brilliant, that. Now, I was going to give you a choice now, right? So we've got one other coach to bring on, and it's your choice. Do we bring him on or leave him?
What do we think, guys?
We'll bring him on. Coach, thanks for joining.
Leave me. How are we doing, guys? Everyone all right?
Yeah, we're good, man. Thanks for joining us. We're sorry for leaving you last, but as you've seen, it wasn't mine and Tasha that picked that. So don't blame us.
Debating how I follow all that as well.
So do you want to give us a brief background on yourself, please?
Yeah, so I'm Liam Brown, been coaching the GB women since 2019 as well, goal defensive coordinator. Started playing contact back at Loughborough in 2007, played for a variety of contact teams until the body broke down, ended up giving flag a go after actually coached Whittingslow that got me into playing flag, going over to play for him in Sheffield, and then got into coaching from there. Currently coaching GB, like I said, and the Sheffield Giants women. Yeah.
So all in all, we've got like a extreme wealth of knowledge in the call, and there's pretty much just me that is completely fresh to it, we'll say, isn't it? So I'm going to be learning tonight. So I appreciate you all for joining us here tonight. Thanks very much. So we've got a few topics and things that we're going to be covering. I know we haven't got loads of time. So the first topic that I want to bring up is the future of flag. So what is the future of flag football? We'll roll it out. We'll go across the board, okay? So let's go with actually, which way we're going to go? We'll go Vince first. Vince, do you want to give us that future of flag speech, if possible? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, I will honestly say there are a couple people on this call who are going to be better at answering this question. That being said,
they're getting a turn. They're getting a turn as well. Don't worry.
No, I know. I think what I'm really excited about is having it. Like I grew up in the States. I'm back there, and kind of growing up, for me, flag football was always like, oh, it's not real football. It's not it's like a side thing that, either people who aren't actually athletes or drunk frat guys play. And to see it expanding into a legitimate sport on the NFL Network, both men's and women, and being hailed as a potential Olympic sport in the future, it's being legitimized is an amazing way to develop for contact football, but also its own a great sport in its own right. So I'm really excited about that.
Now, just getting the talks of like Olympics and things has got like the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, and I've just shaved them all off as well, but they're still standing up. So that to me is unbelievable. So Phoebe, what do you think the future of flag looks like?
Yeah, and it's an exciting question. I mean, I'm sure everyone's going to hit on this as well. Vince said it. The idea of the top 8 teams from this World Championship in Israel are going to go forwards and be able to play in the World Games next year in Birmingham. And that is a brilliant next step for the sport that hopefully will leeway into getting an opportunity to present itself at the Olympics. And really flag football is our main opportunity to get into the Olympics just based off of sheer numbers and size, but also there really aren't many barriers to participation, as sometimes contact presents. You don't have the cost of equipment, you don't have the massive fields, you don't need all of that. And so it becomes something that people around the world can really play and enjoy in. And plus for fans, it's now an opportunity for them to understand what's happening. It's much quicker. You understand who's got the ball, what they're trying to achieve. So it breaks down those barriers in terms of rules as well. From my own kind of perspective, whilst I've been in the US, I've been working with NFL Flag to really grow the women's side of things. So the NAIA has been offering scholarships to females to be able to go play in university. Now the NJCAA has started offering it as well. So NCAA will be next after that. And then currently working with pretty much every NFL team is wanting to join in with Nike to create high school leagues. So age 13 to 17. So last week, for example, we were working with the Jets out in Jersey and had over 200 girls participate who had never participated in the sport before. And they'll have an 8-team league that will occur where everything's like, Jet stash and all of that. So I think now whereas back in the day, nobody knew there was this kind of pathway for players and coaches. Now we have that, and it's something that's actually attainable and something that I know everyone on this call is really working towards and excited for.
I mean, for me, I just think as soon as I'm gone, as soon as it's like Olympics and things, that's just game changer, isn't it? Like for me, if that's like the goal of a sport, like that is next level game changer.
Massively. And everyone here is going to say this as well, I'm sure, but that also means that us as a sport, as flag football, have got to take that next step as well. Even at GB level, that is, we are representing our country. So that elite mentality has got to be there, because as Vince was saying about, used to be in the States as fraternities or whatever would play, or kind of out of shape people, there still is a lot of that mentality in the UK and in the US where you just kind of show up and play flag. But, having coaches like you have on this call, they're really leading the way, saying it's not just you show up and play. There's practice planning. You're doing Zoom calls every week. You're thinking about the mental side of the game, and these guys are doing a great job of that and really building up the sports for the next generations.
Well, for me personally, like looking at it, I'm sorry for like not passing this off around everyone else straight away, but we'll get there. But for me personally, for it to hit everybody, you can't. There is that level where you can't just jump in and play, and then there's that also that elite level as well, where it's like that you don't get that with many sports. Let's be honest. There's not that, let's say, pathway in place that you can just say, oh, I can either just go and pick up a ball and start playing a bit of flag football, whether that you're starting at touch level or whatever you want to do, to then go and getting flag belts, join the team, and then progressing up to you guys at GB, and then hopefully going on to the Olympics. That's just, for me, that's like if I was 15 stone lighter and maybe 20 stone lighter, then I would have a go. But like, I don't think like I would definitely play, but I don't think I could ever go elite. But if that Olympic thing came up, I'd be like, well, I reckon I could get in the gym a bit more or something. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of contact guys going, well, we've never played flag before. If that's the goal, maybe we could give it a shot. And I think that, for me, I think this has got to be the fastest growing sport now out of everything. I can't see a quicker one, if I'm completely honest, just from my perspective anyways.
Do you guys think as well, when it comes to the whole school situation, because Phoebe, you were obviously saying about the equipment, obviously flag's now coming over to the UK more in schools, and it's now starting to get that build up there. Do you think that that's almost like the future for flag, which is that whole get it in the schools to actually get more people understanding about it first? Because you see football, you see netball, you see basketball, you see all these other sports in schools. Is flag and is that accessibility to equipment going to potentially help the future? That's for anybody.
Yeah, so I think
on you go.
Absolutely. We talk about the Olympics in 2028, so that's what, 7 years away. So effectively what you're looking at is you're looking at your 11, 12, 13-year-olds of today are going to be in that Olympic team. So we really have to be doing as much as we can now to develop in schools, introduce the game, develop the skill sets at a younger age. So when they're rolling out into the adult 16, 17 age groups, and they can experience, the domestic leagues, the domestic level international tournaments, and then hopefully a pathway into the GB setups. They're already bringing the basic principles and abilities with them, and we're not having to start fresh as people get up to GB, as I saw in 2019, and I'm sure Coach Young's seen previously as well. Giving the pathway as much input as possible for as long as possible before they are at the peak age group. That's really what we need to be driving for the future of flag.
I fully agree with that. It's the earlier we can get fundamentals taught, and the earlier we can access these young future athletes, like kids. I'm a teacher, so maybe I'm a bit particularly cheesy towards this, but there are no ceiling on kids at all if you can get them early enough and trained early enough. And we do need to do more to get into schools, but I think simply being in sort of even the conversation for the Olympics should be opening doors for us, and hopefully that all goes as we plan, and it should hopefully create a legacy. The Scottish Claymores were in Scotland for 10 years, and it was never even that popular, but the legacy that left in Scotland for the years after is seen in the GB landscape just now when you look at the number of young Scottish players that we have and that Vince is chucking a ball to. It's an incredible impact, and that was a very small window sort of thing with the Claymores. The Olympics is global. It's worldwide. It's seen everywhere. Everyone has an interest in the Olympics. It should be the top. It should be your sports sort of peak every 4 years. So I think the springboard's there. We just need to jump on it.
What about the school stuff as well? Students are keen for it. Like, I'm a PE teacher as well. I've taught flag in 2 schools now, tried to introduce it into the curriculum, trying to get the other local schools in the area involved. They've all seen it on TV. They all know the name of the big name players. They're keen for it. They're really interested in it. We just need to strike while the iron's hot.
And the other thing that makes flag great there is, in the format we play, the international, the 5-on-5. I think as a kid, when you're playing football, you go out to play with your friends. Like, no one's saying, "Oh, I want to be an offensive lineman," or "I want to, everyone wants to be the star receiver or quarterback or, making plays. And when it comes to flag, you're playing skill positions. So even, as young kids, you're learning that set of skills. I know one of the things that's tough for contact football for kids, I know at least in the States, there are a lot of leagues where even if you're the right age, if you're over a certain weight, you can't play anything but the line. And so you have like big kids that can't learn like the skill set. But I love our format because it's 4 receivers. So you run real route combos, you run real pass routes, you learn the real skills of both, football, and it becomes a really non-contact version of the sport.
I've got actually a bit of experience on this. I actually work in schools teaching flag football. I didn't tell you all that at the start. Right, but what I actually do is I go around a lot of schools, and then I've got like a main school that I'm in as well, which I'm in a lot teaching flag, just because this school's bought in. And the way that I approach schools is obviously explain the sport, explain what the different pathways are, and how you can either go down a few different routes. You can go and play for a flag team, you can go play contact, etc. However you want to do it. But primary school age is what we're kind of looking at here, is what you're saying is what's going to be those Olympians. And I tend to, when I'm speaking to a teacher, I kind of explain how it's a lot of kids in this country are learned to put a ball on the floor and kick it first. But also the big difference of turning and catching a ball and getting that hand-eye coordination helps when you pick up a pen and start writing. It's massive. Like that, the correlation between doing this and catching and writing, teachers go, oh, I didn't think of it that way. So when you throw it back on the educational side of things, schools buy into that. And we've got loads of schools. I'm not joking. We've got loads of schools that buy into flag, not necessarily just because of the sport, but because of the benefits of playing this type of sport. Like normally you've got cricket where they're going to be catching the ball, and that's probably the sport that we play over here for that. Whereas American football gives that as well. Flag football gives that in schools. For me, I mean, you guys are PE teachers, a couple of PE teachers in here, or teachers, sorry, that you might find that as well. Like, I don't know, if your athletes that are going out there and catching balls, are they like better developing their handwriting a bit better? Are they developing their work skills better? Is that just like a natural thing, or is that something that we've just found up here?
Well, I think, go on, yeah, Coach.
Oh, sorry, Phoebe. I was going to say, it's not so much even that side of things. I think for me, it's kids that maybe don't fit in with the football crowd, the soccer crowd, if you will, for Vince's benefit. It's they have somewhere else to go and a different skill set. And kids with disadvantaged backgrounds, it's a little glimmer of just something positive and something different that they can excel at. And it's a sport that right now, it's not that difficult to reach the competitive level from the ground up. We don't have a huge gap between our social teams and our league teams at the moment.
I'll also say from personal experience, though, I mean, I have my own doubts about this because I can throw a spiral, but I failed kindergarten handwriting.
Oh, my handwriting's terrible, but I didn't do it enough.
So I hear that it certainly didn't help me, but it's interesting to hear.
See, we based it on like a study that we found from one of the universities that said teaching kids this hand-eye coordination, etc., catching, throwing the ball is going to help the development of their fingers and fine-tuning those motor skills to be able to.
No, it makes sense.
I understand why now I can't.
Listen, schools buy into it. Use it. Get in the schools, right? That's what they've done. Get in. That's it. It worked.
Go on, Phoebe.
I was just going to say, I think because in the UK we grew up with football, like soccer football being the sport. Actually, when you bring something like flag football to a school, it totally levels the playing field. There aren't kids that have been in academy since they were 4 years old who are, really outdoing some of the female athletes. Everyone starts on the same level. And even with our work with UK Jukes and being in school, I've really found actually from like the intangibles, the leadership skills, a lot of these girls step up and they're the ones that are telling everyone what to do. And I love that, and there's going to be kids who perhaps don't want to necessarily be out there, catching routes or, but you can say, hey, you can be the official for the day, or you can be the coach for the day and you draw up the plays. I mean, there's just so many different elements that flag football offers to schools.
Phoebe, you hit on something there about girls, especially obviously when they're in schools. It's all about netball, and it's all about, as you say, you almost put into football. But we're kind of looking at as well, like one of the next topics we're going to look at is the development of women's sports, and then obviously the coaches that come along with that. And how do you envision obviously that development going? Because we're seeing a lot more teams, we're seeing a lot more people coming through those big sporting names. But how can we help develop some of the sports here in the UK, and especially flag football, with you guys being the main coaches?
I mean, I think Coach Young and Coach Whittingslow will be great to tell you about what they're doing in terms of the pathways for female coaches from I guess, just the development of the women's game over here. You know, it always comes back to seeing people in those roles and having that be the normality. So for not just young girls, but for young boys to be able to see females that are as coaches, as, presenters. These are all different roles that perhaps in the past we've not had that opportunity as much. But the more that becomes normality for everyone, I think that's already putting it on a great start. But I think also as a community, as British American football, it's really our responsibility to make sure, especially these younger ages, kids are just having fun. And if you have fun doing something, you're more wanting to do it in the future. You'll keep coming back. So I think we have to remember sometimes that it doesn't matter how many times we say it's a volunteer sport. We have to be more professional about it, but we need to make sure that we're giving a good service and that we're making sure everyone is taken care of.
100%. Andrew, what would be your perspective on this? Like the whole development around. Well, I'll even touch on like the Olympic side of things and like women's sports again, because I missed you and Liam. I do apologize. Sorry.
No worries. I think it really starts at the grassroots level. We need to really focus on bringing not the current generation through only, but also the next generation, and engaging with children of the right age. So as Dean says, they'll be of the right age when the Olympics comes around, which is an unbelievable opportunity going forward. I think it's also a two-pronged approach, because there's quite a lot of pressure on the current coaching staff and players to create an environment of success, to be something that people are looking at because they're friends or maybe their family members who are playing for GB, or people playing in regional teams know people who play, or they have an older sister, say, who's playing in the current team, that it's something that they want to be a part of. We have to create an environment that people, want to be involved in and want to strive for. And the more buzz we can create about the sport, and the more accessible we can make it, as we've already mentioned, it is a very accessible sport. The typical things that hold you back from doing, say, the contact side of things, maybe money, because you have to buy all the kit, or it's quite expensive to join these teams, typically at the university level. But you can start this much younger and school level, and you don't necessarily need to join something outside of school. It's much more accessible, and you can hear about it just by turning up to school from your PE teachers like Liam. So yeah, I think it's two-pronged. We need to really work on bringing the younger athletes through and getting them excited about it, but we have to create something that they want to be excited about. So we've got to be successful going forward, and we've got every opportunity to do it with the World Championships and then the World Games coming up, which we have every intention of being at.
And Liam, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think we've touched a lot on the players, and also the future is going to come from the coaches. And we've talked about the players, and it's the students now that will be the Olympians in the future. But that means the current cohort of players could be the coaches of the future, and we need to develop them as well. And I could be completely wrong in saying this, but the vast majority of coaches in the UK are probably guys. Okay, we don't have a lot of female head coaches in the UK, and we need to develop that as well. We started looking at. I was going to say, we started on the GB team looking at having apprenticeship coaches, people to come and shadow Dean, myself, Andrew, and learn and develop their own styles. Yeah, we just need to keep pushing that. The sport's going to go a long way. There's new teams popping up every year. new teams entering the league, lots of opportunities. We just keep developing the different layers of it.
Yeah, and I think.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. No, you go.
Tash,
you go.
I was saying, Tash, you fire a question away. It's all over to you.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, I think that some of the things you guys have been saying there is really key. But I think what I want to touch on specifically is the coaching element, because you're saying that some of the players can be coaches, and we're seeing player pathways and we're seeing things like that coming through, and the apprenticeships sort of thing you're saying there about looking at who can kind of shadow other coaches. Do you see that sort of program being able to be executed at a really high level within the current GB setup, or do you think there still needs to be a bit more development before you can get there, before you feel comfortable with people actually coming in and shadowing yourselves to make sure that you're actually able to focus on your roles as well as helping this other person?
From my perspective, when I took over the role 5 years ago, we had the idea of having development coaches. And this is probably sexist of me, but 5 years ago I never even considered it being a female coach. I never jumped to it. It was just a coach. I didn't put a gender on it. And it was Dean, to his credit, that pointed out there were a couple of strong potential female coaches. We brought them in. In all honesty, we weren't prepared enough for them. We didn't have enough development in place for them. We didn't have a good enough structure. I was trying to run before I could walk. But you know what? Failures make you better. And we now have a development coach who's been with us for over probably 2 years now, thanks to the pandemic. And she'll now graduate onto our main coaching staff. And we'll look to backfill that. So it has worked well. And I think there is something to shadowing people. But I do think that there might be more virtue and more success in people who actually get hands-on coaching experience rather than just shadowing, the opportunity to make your own mistakes. So we've set up like a working group in Scotland, and we're looking to set up 4 university women's teams, and they will all exclusively be
Left it.
No idea what happened there. He was onto something great, so that's what's perfect. And I think there's something there was actually really important was you shouldn't ever think about it being male and female. I think a lot of the time, I think it's whoever is actually right. And I think that a lot of the time we always focus on trying to develop female voices and females coming through, but actually we shouldn't be focusing on that. We should be focusing on developing everybody to enable that next generation to come through.
I'm sorry, Coach. I have no idea what happened with that connection. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. So it just suddenly came up with a red set of lines, and I thought, oh, maybe what I was saying was rubbish.
We were all on the edge of a seat. You left on a cliffhanger.
What was the last thing I said?
Well, I don't know, but you might have done this.
4 universities.
Oh yeah, so we've set up a working group in Scotland, SCOF, and we're going to try and one of the things we're doing is setting up a women's university league that will be coached only by the women's players from the teams around. So we only have 2 female teams in Scotland, which is something that needs to be addressed immediately. So we're going to try and get those players coaching, picking up some of the more experienced, and they will be given a structure and some support, but they will be running the sessions themselves. And I think, while there is obviously advantages to shadowing myself and more so Dean, there's definitely more experience to be gained in that, the hands-on aspect. So we're hoping that we can get some cash together, and we're going to put them through their BAFCA coaching qualifications. We're going to give them all the kit they need to start. We're going to get them through the uni doors by going, hey, you guys need to do nothing apart from let our ladies coach and let them go find female players. And we're hoping that could be a pathway to get some female coaches up here north of the border.
Dean, I'm just wondering, is that something that you're seeing as well? Is that a lot of women aren't actually able to play at university level? And a lot of them actually having to set up their own teams. So obviously, as the head coach of the GB team, you're looking at those external teams, whereas there's nothing really happening in universities for females.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's funnily enough, that's exactly where I started coaching at Hallam University. I was involved with setting up the first university flag team back in kind of 2014, something like that. And it was difficult. You know, the biggest thing was trying to get any form of support from the university because it wasn't a books sport. It still isn't a books sport. So you don't get booked points. So you don't get support from the university, or you didn't back then anyway. So it has been difficult, and I imagine it still is difficult because we still don't see that many new teams popping up. When you've got an abundance of people, an abundance of athletes coming through university year in, year out, and it's just an absolutely untapped potential. So yeah, we're talking about primary schools, early secondary school as being the future of the sport, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of potential athletes, 18, starting university this year, last year, that again could still be in the Olympic team in 2028, and would definitely help Coach Young and myself between then and now. So, I don't necessarily have the answer. I think what Coach Young's doing up in Scotland is fantastic. I'm not sure what conduits we have in place down south of the border that could tap into that resource.
And I think talking about it from a BAFCA point of view, Coach Young, you hit on it before about there needs to be a support system. We can't just be trying to put women in these roles. We really need to make sure that they're supported and they feel comfortable. I think there's a unique thing with that because yes, you want them to feel comfortable, obviously from like a cultural perspective, like they're amongst great coaches, but we do want to make you feel slightly uncomfortable, like you are stepping outside of your comfort zone to coach. I mean, that's what everyone on this call does and continues to do in order to be better for themselves and better for their team. So I think having something like a mentor program in place could really help. And I think it doesn't always have to be because I'm a woman, I need a woman mentor. There are wonderful men like yourselves in these great spaces to help bring more females into them. And I think, sometimes we forget about that like kind of male allyship side of things. But I mean, still with my BAFCA hat on, in terms of now we've got the BAFCA app, which if you've never run a session before and all you do is just use this app, it'll plan your practice sessions. It will give you the drills. And I think that as a coach, especially new to a sport, could build a lot of confidence because how many times we talk about the fact that actually people don't know what it's supposed to look like. If we don't have an example from the sport of what it's supposed to look like, how do they know how to run that post? How do they know how to run that corner? Unless you have a great athlete who can do that for you. Well, if you have an app or you have video footage or whatever that is, that can help that person as a coach to teach it with coaching points, then I think that's already giving them a bit more confidence because I think really coaching, a lot of it is about confidence and how you teach someone, what it is that they need to know.
And while I quite like your point, Phoebe, about the male allyship, our program with the unis up here, the academy we're setting up, is based on a kind of study that was done that women are about 80% more likely to try something if there's a female coach in place, and they're 67% more likely to stick with it if there's a good female leader there. But yeah, it doesn't mean the exclusion of males. We need to have more female leaders to attract these young athletes.
Totally agreed.
Yeah, I think it's the same with everything. Like what you were saying, Phoebe, at the start with the whole, you're starting to see more women coming through presenting sports. You're starting to see more women athletes in the spotlight. You're starting to see all these people. And then that's what actually encourages others to actually step up and want to take up a sport or go and do something new. So yeah, I completely agree. But then you also need that male allyship there to actually counteract that and support this moving forward. But something else that has kind of been hinted at, but we haven't necessarily moved on to, is about the mentality and actually having that confidence and gaining that confidence. And sometimes when obviously you see a lot of athletes get injured, and even as coaches, you're seeing athletes more and more kind of having to be in that right mentality. What is that importance that your players and the people that you're coaching, whether it's on offense, defense, whether it's somebody that is currently sitting on the sideline because they're injured, what is that importance of having that psychology support around them as well?
So for me, I'll say that. For me, we're putting a massive emphasis on mindfulness this year and being mentally prepared for anything as we approach the World Championships. In our review of what went well and what went wrong in 2019, we believe that we weren't mentally prepared for that final game that we lost. That was what lost us the game. It was our lack of mental preparation. So for us, it's absolutely key we get that right this year. And, that we're putting as much emphasis on that as we are putting on S&C, reps on the field, at an elite level. No matter whether you're from the US, Denmark, Austria, wherever you're from, the gaps in athletic ability, physical athletic ability, are minimal. Therefore, you need to look elsewhere for those extra gains that you can get. And if you can come into a game more mentally prepared than the person next to you, that's going to be an advantage that you have out on the field throughout the game. So for me, and for the women's setup this year, we are putting pretty much as we can into sort of sports psychology and preparation for the Worlds.
So, what about everyone else? I'm going to open that question up to everyone. To be honest, I think it's a question that I'd like to hear what everyone's got to say on, and touch on it like psychology, even at the elite level. So, what's the importance of it?
I think for me, it's knowing that everybody's going to be different. So there's no one with sports psychology. There's no one size fits all approach. So with us doing we made it for the girls. We made a sports psychology resource. We haven't got sports psychologists on staff at the moment, so we made a PDF that has loads of books listed, loads of apps listed, loads of podcasts that they can all just tap into, find what's good for them and what works for them. Like we've all got in this call our own experience of how we mentally prepare for a game, whether it's as a coach or as a player or whatever. But that's just us individually. So I've said so many times to the team, I can tell you what works for me, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So it's trying to provide everybody with the resources that they can go and find it for themselves. We'll be here to talk about it with them. And obviously what we've given them, we've probably read or listened to ourselves. But it's knowing that everybody's going to be an individual when it comes to this.
I fully agree with that. And it's very difficult to cater to everyone in your squad. But if we can give them the tools, they need our strength and conditioning coach, Coach Bond, has been quite good at dropping in things that he finds work, whether it be a podcast or something he's read. And then we've got Coach Boys who's dropping things in as well. And it's going to be we're going to have our fortnightly calls as a national squad, and there's going to be 10 minutes dedicated to mindfulness just each week. I think it's particularly important coming out of the current situation that we're in.
I think it's important that we also get people to engage with this as soon as possible, because again, if you want to end up being an Olympic sport, you need to have the right environment set up already well before 7 years time, and we need to prepare, and the coaches and players and future players need to prepare as though they are already at that level. At that top level, there's been so much in the past 5 to 10 years, so much more awareness about mind state in sport and how critically important that is to performance, not just the physical side of it, but the mental side as well. So yeah, it's making people more aware of it. And I'll be honest, until recently, I never even looked into anything in terms of mindfulness. I was very much of the sort of ignorant state of mind where I would sort of shrug it off and say, oh, that's not for me, I don't need it. But it's just giving things a go and trying breathing exercises to help you sleep better, which is obviously super, super important to not just mental sharpness, but also the physical side of things. So it's showing people the value in what you can get from doing this. And certainly at the international level, we're trying to squeeze, the last 5-10% out of everybody all the time. And when you add up across an entire team, an entire squad and the coaching staff, that's what can make the difference between, as we say, we came second in Euros. And maybe if we'd had that there, or when we have it there in the future at Worlds, that will make the difference between winning and losing a crucial game.
Vince, I think you had something to say, didn't you? I'd seen you unmute the mic for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the mental side, I've always taken the approach of, I tell Youngie this all the time. I find the mental preparation to be certainly in the position I play, but in, for everybody, I think is almost more important than the physical. And I think my approach to coaching, which, like I said, everybody responds differently, I want to make the game as easy as possible. And one of the ways I try to do that is put the players under as much mental stress is the wrong word, but challenge them in practice so that, when they get to Euros and you see everyone in these organized teams in this beautiful setting with really professional refs and fans and all this sort of stuff, and then you're in a 1-score game at the end of the game, you've been through it because you've gone through these situations in practice. You haven't, I think sometimes people are really easy on each other at practice, and then you get to the game, and at the end of the day, you're playing against Denmark, you're playing against Austria, they're not necessarily going to be nice to you and encouraging to you and all that sort of stuff. So you have to be ready to bring your A game against amongst the worst of circumstances, I guess. So I'm always a big proponent of mental prep on all sorts of levels.
Sorry,
Tash. Would you practice that at training then? Would you practice putting them in those difficult situations that may crop up during a game?
Yes, and
I've been through one of them.
Yeah,
great. It does. It helps.
Yeah, so one of the things we did when Tash was on our team is so we would do a 1.5 minute warning, and you'd have to run on the field, and the clock would run. So we would say that there was running clock the whole time, and they would have to move the ball, call plays at the line. I'd be yelling stuff to just make sure that hey, if you can stay focused under this and you can stay cool here, okay, we'll be fine. It's always better, I think, if the game is easier than practice.
So there's a question I wanted to ask, right? And the only reason I want to ask this is maybe a little bit off topic, but do you treat your practices completely like a game day in those situations? The only reason I'm asking this is for my personal question, if I'm completely honest, and it's because I've got guys that I go mad. I'll say this openly: when guys tape up for game day and things, and they don't tape up for practice. So I go down to that level of things where preparation for my practices, I don't understand why they don't do this. If they're prepping by taping their wrists up and their ankles up, etc., for a game day, why they're not doing it for practice as well? Are they not training hard enough in practice? So are you guys doing the same sort of things? If you've seen a situation where you're 4th and long, for example, and you've got 30 seconds or whatever it is, are you putting those situations constantly in practice? So when it comes to game day, it's bang, done straight away. Are you going to that level?
When it comes to GB camps, we can have usually about 45 minutes to an hour dedicated section of our session that will just be horrible scenarios, whether it be horrible for the defense or horrible for the offense, and we drill them like a game. And when you're dealing with guys at an elite level, they are competitive. Our defense don't want Vince to shred them time and time again. Vince doesn't want to get picked off by them, so he plays at a level. Sure, he might try something he won't do in a game, but you practice it over and over again. And I think it did, as Vince said, the mental preparation aspect of that did help get into the Euros considerably. But you've got to train like you'll play. The only thing that might change is the uniform you're putting on come game day.
I love that answer. I'm clipping that answer, and that's going out on all the social medias. I love it. Thanks. Phoebe, I kept interrupting you there when you were wanting to say something. I do apologize.
You're totally fine. No, I mean, it was kind of hitting on the mental side of things, and I guess situational as well. I think even seeing it all the way from grassroots to the elite level, even in Buffalo, we had a sports psychologist on staff, and she was there every day to answer any of the players' questions, thoughts, talk to them. And one of the things that I know Coach Young, I think, mentioned was giving people tools and how to deal in these situations. And that's precisely what I know she did. And even my time within GB Contact, we've always had a sports psychologist come and speak with us, especially leading up to big competitions, because it's just sometimes stress management. When you're going into a tournament and you are now surrounded by, 10 or whatever, 15, 20 players that you've not been around in that sort of intense environment, learning how to deal with that is really key. So it's not just on the field management, it's that off the field management. And I know John Wise is asking some questions coming across too, but in terms of the situational, I mean, I know even working with Coach Dean in practices, running 2-minute drills, I think you need to be able to, I guess, analytically look at what happens in flag football, break down the game, where are you spending most of your time on the field, and how many plays you run, things like that, really trying to recreate it as much as possible. I know Coach Wayne Hill is a big believer in giving people half times in practice so that they get all, amped up like you're playing a game. And then, hey, now you got to sit for 5 minutes, compose yourself and get back out there and play. So there's a lot of ways that we can be tactile within planning a session. And I think it's something, whether you say, okay, today we're going to work on third downs, we're going to work on third or short yardage, whatever it is that you want to focus on. Well, now everyone has that same mentality. I'm already thinking as a defensive player, hey, what is, Coach Brown going to call? What is Coach Mathers going to call? Because play callers, we all naturally have tendencies. It also gives you field awareness. So I'm now being able to look at where the sticks are. Where does the other team have to get to? And we can then grade our success. And, I think half the time, whether you're talking contact or flag, the closer you get to the red zone, that's where people's minds start to go, And so if you can practice that and pretty much try and treat it as if it's any other down, or, really not put so much emphasis on it that it makes people kind of spiral out of it. I mean, practice that in practice. Then when we're in game mode and we're in the red zone, we're scoring every time because, hey, it's just like another first down for us.
I like that.
If I can just pick up what the question from John Wise as well. Absolutely. Dean puts me under loads of pressure to do these situational calls during practice. And it's not just during practice. I'll get a WhatsApp message early in the morning, like, this is a situation, what are you going to do about it? So, yes, coaches get the same pressure from the head coaches.
Airplane mode, mate.
Yeah.
You'll find me.
I know where he lives.
I love that. Wait until you start getting letters. You're just gonna let that come through. You've blocked us on everything. What are you doing on this? Send us a back.
I think the other side of the mental part, which maybe we haven't touched on explicitly, but is also something I try to really approach with guys. Like my background professionally, like I'm a trader, I'm a math major, so I'm very big on probability and analytics. And I think you have to coach to not be outcome based. Like you could have made the correct decision and it might not have gone in your favor, or you could have, made the smart play and it didn't work out. I use the example, you run the play, everyone runs the right route. You throw the pass over the middle to the receiver, hits their hands, drops it. Like you just got to do it again. Like nothing about the call was wrong. Nothing about what you did. You made a physical mistake. Whereas, you throw it into double coverage, panic throw, gets tipped up, caught for a touchdown. Okay, it worked out, but that's not the right thing. And trying to teach players how to recognize every situation. So, okay, Youngie talks about it all the time. It's second and short. I don't care about giving up the first down, or that's fine if they get that. Don't get beat deep because they, you can't expect to stop an elite team on second and three downs and for them to get 3 yards and flag. So always, like every single play, the percentage odds of them scoring change. And so understanding what the situation is. And so that's why I personally put players under a lot of mental stress and anguish during practice. We had a session at GB where I made players draw plays from memory, and if they couldn't, the entire team had to run suicides, because just like everyone has to be on mental point at every time, because you never know when that situation comes, when it's a 1-score game in Euros with half a minute left and you have to call something at the line. You need everyone to know it in that situation. And so I think like always understanding the percentages, what's the good play, what's the smart play, and having players really sharp on that, to me, is a big focus of what I try to bring to people, and something I think helps you get that final edge against other elite athletic teams.
I think it's also key, going back to what John's question, that from the coaching side, that you understand that you do have tendencies and you're self-aware about what those are. Because if you can watch film of your scrimmage sessions, say at camp, and you look at what plays you called in different situations, and you try and unpick why did I make that call? Was that the correct call? And then at an international tournament or even at national level in the UK, film is such a big part of the game now. Anything you call as a coach or anything you do as a player, there is typically a record of it. And teams exchange so much film nowadays and spend so much time, on Huddle or other film packages reviewing it. So you have to be really self-aware about what you're calling and the fact that everybody else can see that. And how are they going to try and defeat you? Or how are they going to try and guess what you're going to call in that situation? And it's just keeping it fresh and keeping your tendencies not too easy to pick up on as a player and as well as a coach.
Yeah, definitely. And I think now this kind of leads us nicely into formation, some of the fundamentals within flag football. And I think when we're looking at concepts and when we're looking at, especially you guys as coaches, drawing up concepts, drawing up those playbooks, something that I've seen as previously playing in the blitzer position is one of the most underestimated positions, and actually player concepts like what you're going to be drawing up is actually the positioning of the blitzer and where you can place that blitzer and what that blitzer can actually do. So what is, looking at the defensive coaches right now, what is that importance of that blitzer and what they can actually do and achieve within a game?
Right. So I did one of my pre-recorded ones that got released on Tuesday and answered the question of should we blitz or not? Always blitz. The blitzer is massively important on the team. QB's got 7 seconds to throw that ball, make a read and throw the ball. We don't want them to have the 7 seconds. So not only is the blitzer putting the quarterback under pressure, if you position them slightly different, you can disrupt routes because we know the blitzer's got right of way. It's very rare that I can't think of a situation off the top of my head where I wouldn't call a blitz to go, but you see it so many times in the 4th and long where teams call that the blitzer stays in coverage. All you're doing is giving a quarterback loads of opportunity, loads of time. 7 seconds doesn't seem like long, but it's plenty of time in the backfield when everyone's running the routes. So, yeah, in terms of how important is a blitzer, massively.
I really liked in your video how you explained that as well. Like how you explained how they can break off from coverage and things like that. I thought it was fantastic. So another little plug. If you've not seen Liam's video, go and check it out. We have shared it as well. So it is definitely worth a watch. Also, I think it's worth a watch on defensive scheme-wise that you were talking about for youth coaches that coach 5v5 as well, because there's a lot of stuff that can translate over. So even if you're one of those guys, go and check it out. I thought it was a very good video, mate. I enjoyed it a lot.
Appreciate it.
I think the blitzer position, I think it's the most important position on the field, and that probably even includes the quarterback. And it's more because of what a good blitzer can do and what a good scheme can do with a blitzer. I think most teams just get there and they put in someone to do blitzing that they're kind of whatever about because it's a pretty easy assignment. Go get the QB, right? But the really best teams, they put one of their best, if not their best athlete at blitzer or a really intelligent person there, but also scheme the blitzer within the scheme of the defense. So I started to see at the highest level some of the very best teams, depending what the coverage behind them was called, the blitzer would do something else. So perhaps if there was a cover 2 called, leaving a hole in the middle, the blitzer would come and he wasn't as aggressive towards getting the QB, but he was really like hands up trying to help cover that hole in the middle. And, then there were others where the defense was going to be really aggressive in jumping routes. So the blitzer would not have his hands up, would go straight for the flag because you want the QB to throw because you're being really aggressive and going after the ball. So I think the best teams understand to put a really good player at blitzer, if not your best player, and then also understand to utilize your blitzer as a part of the defense and not just okay, you blitz and we'll figure out the rest back here.
I completely agree with what Vince has said there. It's overlooked constantly. And teams don't consider enough the impact of the type of blitzer they've got. As Vince said, there are the hands up. Are they going straight for the flag? I used to coach the Chieftains once upon a time, and we went down to Wales to play England and Wales. And our defensive captain and blitzer didn't make it. Family dispute, he couldn't make it. So we sacrificed our best safety, plug for Gary Elliott at the time, and we made Gary blitz because we knew that him alone in coverage back there wasn't going to get done. We had to protect our backside, and it just changed the game. It's him at 6'8" made the quarterback throw it considerably higher than he normally would. It just picked City all day. I don't know if Dean was there for that. I'm hoping he was there for that day, but no. Year after we beat you, Dean. Yeah, sorry about that.
Not as old as you, sorry.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
It's like 6 months, mate. Calm yourself.
Everyone counts.
But yeah, sorry, Phoebe, on you go.
No, I'm just interrupting you again today, Coach. I was gonna say, I think it's a lot of it's looking at how the game has changed, how flag football has changed over the years. I know when I started, there used to be a lot more running backs in the game. Now I don't think I've seen a running back in flag in ages. And really, from an offensive point of view, or just looking at the whole procedural element of flag, it's almost an expectation that offense is going to score. It's just who is the better defense, who can put the most pressure on. And when you have the ability to use defense, to use a blitzer, like rushing is the one opportunity, like the one kind of freedom that a defense has. That's like our only advantage as a defense. And I think there are times that you could probably not call a rusher because, you know, they've seen you run it all game, and then you just kind of throw that in as like a little extra spice on top. But I think looking at the game now where you've got a lot more mobile quarterbacks, you also have the double QB, which is playing a big role for someone as a rusher to be able to make that decision. Am I staying with the first QB or am I going to the second QB? Things like that. And then the ability to then chase that back downfield. You know, I just think that person has got to be your best athlete on the team. And I think they can make such a big impact.
So I want to flip this over to the offensive side of the ball and the most important position on offense. And the reason I'm asking this, okay, because I think everyone's going to be like, oh, quarterback. But is it the center? Because I'm not even joking. We had like a game against a flag team a few years ago, and this center was like a long snapper. Like this thing was coming out like a rocket, and it was going like 10 yards deep. And I'm like, I'm not blitzing that. That's miles away. Like I'm just gonna stay here now.
I think I just saw a tear running down Vince's face when you said centre. Then
sorry, Vince. I'm sorry.
Well, I am the best center in Britain.
You've got a couple of guys in this call that might dispute that, but yeah, it's so important, and you need to be able to give the quarterback time. There's so many centers there that don't get enough credit. It's so important, but it's not just the snap. It's knowing how to get out of the way of the blitzer, not to ruin your offense's chance from the word go. And really, the center kind of sets the tempo of the team. They're the one up at the line of scrimmage. They're the one pointing out the blitzer. It's crucial, absolutely crucial.
So there's one thing I want to ask then, as this is probably, I know it's happened in the past where all the GB teams are working together now, but this is the one time where we've seen it. Do you know what I mean? It's from an outsider looking in. We can see you guys all working together. We're doing this round table now. Can you guys go to the contact guys and say, listen, this guy can long snap? Because you guys are firing that ball back, and we need that in the contact side as well. So I think you guys should be saying, listen, boys, I know you have got a long snapper, but this guy firing it in at 100 mile an hour here, you could do with him. Like, I want that from you guys. Please make that promise.
I think there needs to be more of that crossover between contact and flag. I think there in the past it's been, oh, well, they're flag guys, or, oh, they're contact guys and girls, I should say. But actually, there's so many transferable skills. You know, we go back to the beginning of this conversation. In flag, what are you working on? Catching, throwing, defending. These are all the same skills. When you pull flags, when you tackle, you're in the same body position as if you're about to go make a tackle. And I'm sure everyone on this call will tell you the fitness is unreal. You are having to run so much. So I think we need more of that. And then on a bigger scale, we have just got to stop looking within our small world and look into the other sports, look into the track athletes, look into the soccer athletes, rugby, whatever that is, and use their skill sets in the whole American football world in general. So I think that there's a lot of work to be done with that, but actually offering, like you're saying, to centers, but perhaps down the line, and I might be biased, having different formats of flag. There doesn't have to just be the one 5-a-side format. There are like semi-contact formats, which would have a rusher that can actually contact and a center who can block. Well, now you're engaging more of those contact people, and that will at least be a bit more attractive for a lot of other teams out there.
I'm not even joking. You don't even need to go down that route if you don't want to, because soon as you guys can start putting those Olympic rings on your tattoo somewhere on you, those contact guys are jumping ship quickly. I'm not even joking, that's happening. But we have run out of time, and I just want to thank all of you guys for coming on. And the one thing that I want to say that I think flag is doing for the sport, which is the biggest thing in my opinion, is I think you guys are starting to get guys coming in younger, and we're changing that we at the minute we've got a lot of older guys playing the sport and not very many young guys, and I think flag is changing that massively. I think that pyramid is going to flip completely soon. So honestly, I really appreciate you guys coming on, and hopefully we get things going soon.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. And Tash, thanks very much for joining me. We'll see you next week as well.
First one down. However many
First
more
one
to go.
down. Another 420 something to go.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, man.